Good morning again from a coolish morning in Auckland today. I hope most of you have by now seen the first part of the video, which was posted a couple of days ago, and you enjoyed it and maybe took some useful tips home. Let me now move on to the next most important questions which were raised, and correctly so. These were surrounding about the immune system, about improving one's immune health to prevent spreading the virus, as also getting the virus and feeling unwell. Oh well, let's start with the immune system. And if you guys thought I'm going to give you a cookbook of supplements which you can take to improve your immunity, you will be surprised, because that is not the answer. And most of you who have worked with me now for a while will know that I like to go back to the basics, to the foundations of good health. Good health and vitality will also equal to good immunity and a good immune health, a properly balanced, functioning immune system. So yes, you're right. We will start with the most important ingredient, our food, because it is our food that is processed in the gut. And guess what? 70% of our body's immune system lies in the lining of our gut. And no wonder what we put into this tube becomes very important. And it comes back to the same important principles that I have impressed upon you every time you see me, which is eating a varied type of rainbow diet, a diet which has plenty of vegetables which are changing all the time, and there are lots of colors on your plate, the rainbow diet, because each of these vegetables will give you different bioflavonoids and different phytochemicals, which will ultimately improve your immune system. They will improve the colony of the good bacteria in the gut, more correctly known today with the collection of all the bacteria and the viruses as the microbiome of the gut. A healthy microbiome sets the stage for a healthy immune system. And for those of you who have asked questions regarding immunity and having problems with gut, like bloating, constipation, diarrhea, problems with candida, other yeast, are in to try and get these symptoms resolved with the idea of having a nice functioning microbiome and good immune health. Okay, most of you have heard this from me before. So what in the diet is the most important ingredient that I keep on stressing on? An array of vegetables and beans and mushrooms and garlic and onions is because of the fiber in the content of these type of foods. It is the fiber in these foods which will then create the healthy bacteria, which create a healthy microbiome, and that gives you a better immune system. Okay, a better immune system. It's okay to eat small amounts of meat and fish, add in some fruits and sprinkling of nuts and seeds, and that's what, by and large, we are eating most of the time. I'm going to switch off this phone. Because it is a constant reminder of notifications. Anyway, we then move on to the second big lever. I call these the big levers of lifestyle because these big levers actually make the biggest impact. They're lifestyle related activities, but they have the biggest impact on our immune health and overall health. So the next thing is activity. And by activity I mean the amount of exercise we need to be doing. And basically I've always said moderate amounts of exercise, some weightlifting, some aerobic activity, 30 to 40 minutes most days is healthy for an average person, unless you are an elite athlete and you want to do more, but then you will need extra supplements to support the stress, the oxidative stress created metabolically with exercise. But for health and longevity, 30 to 40 minutes of movement is what we need. Now you'd be very surprised. I was just reading a couple of days ago a report which has just been released from New York. What is the reason of New York having such high number of deaths anywhere in the world? They've done a quick study and the results are showing that the biggest number one cause of deaths in New York, believe me or not, you'll be surprised to hear, it's not smoking, it's not old age like in Italy, but it is obesity. Obesity, being overweight and being undernourished at the same time, is the number one cause of death coming from coronavirus. So you can see how the long-term lifestyle sets us up for acute events when they come along to become very powerful and destructive. Okay? Where do we move next? Well, we have talked about stress in the first video, so I will not repeat it. That's the other big lever, because stress directly inputs through the brain and through the hypothalamic axis into the gut, coming through the pituitary, is a direct two-way talk, as I said, between the brain and the gut. Poor brain health will create poor gut health. Poor gut health will create poor brain health. This is a bi-directional input happening between the brain and the gut. And hence, reducing stress and managing stress becomes vastly important. And then that finally takes us to another big lever in lifestyle is sleep. And we will talk about it in our following video along with a few other things. Again, sleep as controlling metabolic function, controlling through the brain, and we'll talk about good sleep and the importance of sleep in our next video. So now we have our major long-term lifestyle factors: diet, food, microbiome, reduction of stress, movement by way of proper exercise, which is supported by right nutrition, and sleep as your big levers for health, and also your biggest levers for an immune system which works to its optimum. Okay, so now let's move on. This is what we can do to make sure our metabolic reserves are high, as I would say. When our metabolic reserves are high, our body is functioning well. The immune system is always functioning in a balanced way, so it knows when to attack when there is a danger, and it gets reset back to normalcy, what is called homeostasis in the body mechanisms. Our bodies are very good at adapting and repairing themselves, but we need to give them the right tools, as I always say. So besides these long-term factors, it now comes down to if it is a seasonal threat, like in the cold weather, we end up getting more respiratory infections generally. And that's because of the living conditions of people, as also our body's immunity being a bit less than at normal times. There also comes along when there is threat of epidemics, a lot of infections, the flu virus or the current virus. And at this time, if we have a good stable platform, we can bump the support a little bit higher so that our immune system can work that much better to face this challenge. And when it comes to these short-term factors which become really important in this scenario, supplements come in to help. And what supplements will we use? So the supplements, I would think, which are most important in the immune system would be in the order of what has been in the media the most, vitamin C. So having adequate levels of vitamin C on a daily basis, something like 500 milligrams once or twice a day is all you need if you're well to keep your immune system functioning better. This can be temporarily increased if needed at the sign of an infection or if there are a lot of people with infections around you. Similarly, there is a lot of research, including some early research coming in with the current virus, of the usefulness of vitamin D. Now, vitamin D is one nutrient which, in most of my testing, even in a country like New Zealand where there's a lot of sunshine, tends to be extremely low in a lot of people. This will surprise you because our levels of exposure to sun are not as much as we think they are. Plus there is use of sunblocks, which we need as well. In the end, we start having lowish to low levels of vitamin D. And these are not in high levels of sufficiency to meet a viral challenge. And hence, at such a time, I'm quite happy giving much larger doses of vitamin D on a daily basis. Anything between 5 to 10,000 units on a daily basis will be helpful for a short period of time. As also during winter, giving additional vitamin D can be helpful. So we've got vitamin C, we've got vitamin D. Then we move on to some other nutrients which will be useful. And these include minerals like zinc. Zinc is essential element needed for the mucosal health, and hence adequacy of zinc, as also magnesium and other B vitamins, niacin, are all very helpful and should be replaced or given a little bit of an added boost during such times. There are some other nutrients which I would like to mention which would be extremely useful in the respiratory setting, and that would be things like quercetin, polyphenols, herbs like curcumin, and another nutrient called N-acetylcysteine. N-acetylcysteine helps to break down the mucus lining from being very thick, the mucus secretions rather, from being very thick to making them thin and easy to flow. So these are some of the supplements which can be used at the time of crisis as we go ahead. Now I know you will want the exact names and doses of all of these, and I will make a little list and email them back to you like I did last time. At this point, I would like to answer another one or two questions related to immunity which have come through, which I think are pretty useful, and most of them would revolve around, Doctor, I have an autoimmune condition, or I'm taking medications for my autoimmune condition. Am I at increased risk during this time? I'm taking prednisone for some reason, and am I at increased risk of infection? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. It is because you are suffering with a situation in which your immune system is compromised because of either the medication you are taking or because of the disease process itself. It is not a balanced, healthy immune response. It's not a balanced, healthy response. And hence, you are more susceptible to it, and you have to take more care than others and maybe supplement and get onto your big lifestyle levers very seriously for long-term health. There's also another similar question which is useful to ask, and that is, Doctor, should I be taking the flu vaccination because I am immunocompromised, or should I be taking flu vaccination at all? Well, the answer to that question is it's not easy, because it happens to lie in the realms of an individual case. It's a case-by-case situation. It also needs to take into account the individual's preferences and the reasons for doing so. But the important thing to know is, if you're taking a flu vaccination today because you're scared of the coronavirus, then remember, the flu vaccination will only reduce your chances of getting the flu. It will not do anything for the coronavirus till the time such vaccine is available. And if you choose not to vaccinate, then to improve your immune system, there are various other options, natural options, which are available to improve your immunity if you are not keen on having the flu vaccination for one of possible several reasons that you have heard from elsewhere. But these need to be discussed on an individual basis. Finally, there was one question on colloidal silver, whether we should be taking colloidal silver to reduce infections. My personal opinion on colloidal silver is no, because I'm worried about the possible heavy metal contamination, as we are not aware of the sources from where the colloidal silver comes. And besides, colloidal silver generally wipes out everything, so it destroys all your good and bad bacteria. And I'm not in favor of using these type of broad-based therapies where you clean up or damage a whole lot of microflora. And the same goes for indiscriminate use, I would say, of antibiotics. So when they are needed, they are really needed. But we got to be careful and use them for the shortest period of time and use some probiotics at the same time, as you would know. So in the end, to summarize today's video, I think it's important to understand that immunity is something we build over a long period of time. It starts from the time we are born, from the days of breastfeeding, where you get your first immune factors from the colostrum in mother's milk, and how you grow up through the years, what antibiotics you had to take, how often, your general lifestyle, and how it sets you up for health or an easy picking for any disease for that matter. And it could be coronavirus, which currently we are worried about. So there, in short, think of long-term goals of immune build-up and also short-term boosts for the current challenges. Remember, an infection which is coming from the virus has a twofold way of harming you. And we are not sure which of these two is more active. Is it one or the other, or is a combination of both of them? The two being, is the coronavirus by itself creating all the damage? The virus particles themselves, are they in great numbers to create this damage in the lung and creates the respiratory distress and the unwellness? Or is it the virus triggering our immune system to a great extent beyond a certain level, whereby what is called a cytokine storm? These are anti-inflammatory and inflammatory molecules which the body produces to meet challenges. So if you end up producing too much of the inflammatory cytokines like the IL-1, interleukin 6, IL-6, then you get an exaggerated cytokine storm, and this creates damage in the lung tissue, which creates respiratory distress. So at this stage, the jury is open. Is it just killing the virus? Is it stopping the virus with a vaccine? Will we be sure? Or it is managing the effects on the immune system with the presence of the virus. And the best I can do at this stage is to tell you, take everything into consideration and do all that we need to do. And finally, as I always say, we looked after stress in lots of ways. We're looking after our immune health in all the ways I've said. But the immune system is hugely related also to our spiritual system. So how we connect with our families, our neighbors, our communities, our thought process, and all of the above. These are the things which I know several people around the world are sitting down to question for the first time. What have we lost in the years of chasing our dreams? This is time to think and to centralize. Thank you so much. Catch you again with my next video. Bye-bye.